Most people who say they're broke aren't actually broke. They're distracted. And that's more dangerous. Because if you're truly broke, the problem is obvious. You can see it. You feel it. You fix it. But financial distraction? That's subtle. It feels productive. It looks responsible. It even feels ambitious. You earn. You upgrade. You stay busy. You plan someday. And quietly, your future gets delayed. Here's the uncomfortable question. What if the reason you don't feel wealthy yet isn't your income, but where your attention goes? Because attention is leverage, and most people are spending it like loose change. And this is where it gets worse. ACT1, hook and tension. There's a behavior that almost everyone in their 20s thinks is normal. It sounds like this. I'm doing fine. I just need to make a little more. So you focus on the next raise, the next client, the next certification, the next city. And that's respectable, proper, sensible even. But here's the problem no one tells you. If your financial identity is built around more later, you'll never build systems for enough now. Read that again. Most people aren't poor because they don't earn enough. They're poor because their attention is scattered across comfort, image, urgency, and comparison. They're optimizing the present while quietly selling their future at a discount. And if you don't catch this early, it compounds. Not just in your bank account, in your identity. Because what you repeatedly prioritize becomes who you are. So the real question isn't, why am I not rich yet? It's, where is my financial attention actually going? And once you see it, you can't unsee it. 1. The upgrade loop that feels earned. You get a raise. You feel proud, as you should. So you move apartments. Upgrade your wardrobe. Start flying a little nicer. Order in more often. Nothing crazy, just leveling up. You tell yourself, I deserve this. And you do. But here's the subtle shift. Your lifestyle expands immediately. Your investments, wait. Your comfort adjusts upward faster than your wealth. And that gap, that's distraction. Because lifestyle inflation doesn't feel reckless. It feels mature. I'm not splurging. I'm just improving my standard. Fair enough. But every upgrade locks in future expenses. And future you now has to maintain today's comfort before building tomorrow's freedom. Pause for a second. If your income dropped by 20% tomorrow, how calm would you feel? That reaction tells you everything. Most people increase their burn rate the moment they increase their earnings. And then they wonder why they still feel tight. It's not about income. It's about timing. We fund our comfort immediately. We fund our freedom eventually. And eventually rarely comes. This is where most people get it wrong. They think wealth is built by earning more. Wealth is built by delaying upgrades long enough for assets to start working. That's not sexy. It's not Instagrammable. It's just calm discipline. And most people don't lack money. They lack restraint when things go well. And that's where distraction starts. But lifestyle inflation alone isn't the root problem. It gets deeper. 2. The illusion of financial productivity. You listen to finance podcasts. You follow investing accounts. You compare credit cards. You research side hustles. You're into money. You care. But caring and building aren't the same thing. There's a trap smart people fall into. Financial consumption replaces financial execution. You feel productive because you're learning, but your net worth doesn't move. You tweak budgets, switch apps, rearrange spreadsheets, but you don't increase automated investments. You don't build ownership. You don't reduce dependency on income. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. How many hours this month did you spend researching money versus actually allocating more into assets? Be honest, most of us prefer thinking about money to committing money because thinking feels safe. Allocating feels irreversible, but ownership requires discomfort, and distraction loves theory. There's a subtle ego boost in knowing financial terms. ETF, index fund, tax efficiency, diversification. But none of that matters if your money isn't consistently moving into productive assets. You don't build wealth by being financially literate. You build wealth by being financially decisive. And that decision usually happens quietly, automatically, boringly. No drama, no hype. Just consistent allocation. But distraction convinces you that preparation equals progress. It doesn't. And here's where this becomes personal. If you've been getting ready to invest for over a year, this might be about you. Not because you're lazy, because you're cautious. And cautious feels intelligent. But time doesn't reward caution. It rewards participation. And the longer you delay participation, the heavier the lift later. This is where most 20-somethings quietly fall behind. Not because they spend wildly. Because they wait strategically, and waiting compounds too, just not in your favor. But even that isn't the deepest distraction. There's something more subtle, pre-identity spending, the quiet leak. You don't buy things for utility. You buy them for alignment. The apartment that matches your vibe, the city that signals ambition, the trips that prove you're living, the tech that signals competence. None of this is irrational. Humans signal. We always have. But when your spending becomes identity reinforcement, you start funding perception before funding ownership. You might not even notice it. It feels normal. Everyone around you is doing it, especially in Tier 1 cities, especially online, especially in your 20s. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If your lifestyle needs validation to feel successful, you're financially fragile. Real wealth is quiet. It doesn't need aesthetic reinforcement. It doesn't need constant upgrades. It prioritizes optionality over optics. And optionality is underrated. Optionality means you can quit, you can pivot, you can take 6 months off, you can say no. Identity spending trades optionality for approval. That's expensive. Not just financially, emotionally. Because now you must maintain an image, and maintenance costs energy. Energy that could have built assets. Let me flip it. If nobody could see your life for the next 5 years, would your spending look the same? That question exposes distraction immediately. Because most people aren't broke. They're financing a version of themselves that feels impressive now, and postponing the version that feels powerful later. And here's the real twist. The people who look calm about money, they're not smarter. They just separated identity from spending earlier. That's it. But there's one final distraction that ties all of this together, and it's the one that quietly controls everything. 4. Urgency addiction. Modern life trains you to respond. Notifications, sales, deadlines, opportunities. Everything feels urgent, and urgency kills long-term thinking. You react instead of design. You swipe instead of decide. You upgrade because the deal ends tonight. You invest only when markets are trending. You make money moves emotionally, and emotional finance is expensive because markets reward patience, but culture rewards reaction. Here's a dry truth. Most financial mistakes aren't made from stupidity. They're made from speed. Buying too fast, selling too fast, upgrading too fast, quitting too fast. Distraction thrives on speed. Wealth builds in stillness. If your financial life feels chaotic, it's not because you lack intelligence. It's because your attention is constantly fragmented, and fragmented attention can't compound. Compounding requires time, and calm, and repetition. But distraction keeps you busy. Busy feels productive, but busy isn't wealthy. Pause here. When was the last time you reviewed your financial life without urgency? No panic, no comparison, no rush, just clarity. Most people never do. They operate in financial autopilot. Income comes in, expenses go out, hope fills the gap. And hope is not a strategy. If this feels slightly uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is awareness, and awareness is leverage. Because once you realize you're not broke, just distracted, you stop chasing income as the only solution, and you start redesigning attention. Here's the calm truth. You don't need a radical overhaul. You don't need a new side hustle tomorrow. You don't need to sell everything and move to Bali. You need alignment. Alignment between what you say you want and what your money quietly prioritizes. If you want freedom, your money should be buying assets. If you want control, your expenses should be lower than your ego. If you want calm, your investments should be automated. Long-term wealth isn't built by intensity. It's built by systems. Systems remove emotion. They remove urgency. They remove identity from spending decisions. And once systems are in place, you don't need to constantly try. You just let time work. This is the shift most people miss in their 20s. They treat money like a project. Wealth isn't a project. It's an infrastructure. Projects require motivation. Infrastructure runs whether you're inspired or not. And when you build financial infrastructure early, life gets lighter. You stop obsessing over every expense. You stop reacting to every headline. You stop tying self-worth to salary. Because you know something most people don't. Ownership compounds quietly, and time is neutral. It rewards whoever shows up consistently, not whoever feels the most motivated. So no, you're probably not broke. You're likely earning, learning, trying. But if your financial life feels stagnant, it's worth asking, am I building assets or just maintaining appearances? Am I investing consistently or just thinking about it? Am I upgrading comfort or upgrading control? These questions aren't dramatic. They're stabilizing. And once you see distraction clearly, you can redirect attention intentionally. That's when things change. Not overnight, but predictably. And predictable wealth is underrated. Because it's boring, but boring builds freedom. If this hit a nerve, in a good way, then the next step is obvious. Because distraction and comfort are connected, And if you don't understand how comfort quietly replaces freedom, you'll repeat the same cycle at a higher income. So on your screen right now is a video called "You're Optimizing Comfort Instead of Financial Freedom." Watch that next. Not because you need more motivation, but because awareness compounds too. And the earlier you redesign your attention, the lighter your future becomes. I'll see you there.